I want to talk about the unhealthy level of social comparison, right? And how we can stop, how it's stopping us from achieving the life that we want, versus living in this life where we feel with judgment and criticism, right? Because we're comparing. Let's talk about the negative side of comparing yourself to others. And, some people just naturally do this more than others, and they do it in the wrong way, and it could be damaging, and it could be a double-edged sword, if you think, right? Comparing yourself to others and saying life is unfair, it can be a great motivator, but sometimes if you leave it, unchecked, you're going to develop some negative habits that can affect your progress long term. So let's talk about the two types, right? There's downward comparison, right? When you compare yourself with somebody lower than you. I suggest never doing this because it's really pointless. And, someone who's worse off than you, why would you compare your life to them? It shows how weak your mind is, really, if you're comparing yourself to someone lower, right? You judge, you criticize, you become egotistic. You can sometimes start to develop arrogance or hostility towards other. It's a false way to boost your own self-esteem. That shows how insecure you are in a very negative way when you compare yourself to someone lower than you, right? When you do downward comparison to others, right? Now, number two, the second one is upward comparison. Now, this is something that could be inspiring, but when you compare yourself to someone who is better, someone who is doing better than you, someone who's moving faster than you, this type of comparison can lead to a lot of negative feeling of inferiority, shame, jealousy, anger, fear of missing out, like overwhelming stress, doubt, like, can I even do this, right? In yourself. So those are the two main types on downward and upward comparison. And you see comparison as a very negative part of your life because you're uncertain of your self-worth, self-identity. You're not clear. You don't have internal standards, and you lack a clarity on your own, overall identity, right? This sounds kind of bad, right? Don't worry. We're done with the bad part. The benefits of this is when you have social comparison, it does have a aspect of inspiration if you do it right. So I grew up comparing myself. I was being compared to when I was a kid. So I don't know them personally. When I was young, I didn't make straight A's. I'm not a straight A student, but I was compared to other straight A students. I know some of you recognize and remember this. It sucks, right? I wasn't the most studious student, right? But that made me very critical of who I was. Like, I doubt myself and my ability all the time. I have a lot of self-doubt and self-confidence issues. And you know what? That's okay, because I can do something about it. Now, when I changed my way of thinking and, when I changed the way I compare myself with others, instead of saying that it's a bad thing, I said, how can I become that person? And that's what helped me change the language of like comparison. Instead of being like critical about myself, it's like, how can I be that? And that took me a very long time to develop, right? Now, upward comparison, the benefit of the positive side of upward comparison, that you can be inspired by somebody. You can be motivated by somebody. You can be driven. You can have hope because someone's life who's been through certain hardship and situation, it gives you like the light in the tunnel, like, hey, things will work out if I keep doing these things. So after spending, for me, spending like 10 plus years just working on my mind, training my body, mainly my mind really, because my body is the result of my mind. Like how you think, the thoughts that you have, the things that you feed into your mind will determine everything externally. Remember that. And, I started to seek people better than me all the time. I shifted the mindset of just, I want to learn. I want to grow mentally. Now, it does suck, right? Because there were times when I'm like, man, I'm not there yet. Why am I not as smart as this guy? Why am I not as capable as this person? It does suck. But then it gives me hope when I know their stories, right? When we don't know their background, when we don't know their true background or their story, that's when we don't get the inspiration. You have to know who they are to be inspired. Because like for all of us, would you be inspired if you know that this guy here was given $100 million business, and you found out that he was just given, his parents gave this to him. He didn't do anything. His parents gave it to him. It's not very inspiring. You're like, well, you're jealous now. You're like, this guy didn't do anything, you know? He just got fed with a silver spoon, right? And so, like, when you know their story, it helps you be more inspired with their result, and it gives you inspiration and hope. So for me, when I was growing up, I didn't have any standards. And when I started getting into personal development, I followed Tony Robbins. I really looked up to Tony Robbins because that was the only guidance I have. I was fortunate. I was lucky to have stumbled across Tony Robbins because when I was growing up, I was surrounded by a lot of, I was left to myself. And so when when you're just by yourself, you tend to do things that are not very good. You make bad choices. And so I would listen to his CDs, his tapes and CDs. I would read his books, and he was like a personal mentor for me. And I listened to him every day. I didn't even know him personally, of course, but I understood his story. I was able to learn about his story, his history, how he grew up, the struggle that he went through in his life. And it took a very long time for him to be successful. Man, this guy's been a performance coach for like 40 plus years. Now I want to build something like that too, right? And his message, his lesson, his wisdom, along with many of the other mentors I listen to every single day, helped me make better decisions for my life and for my future. So that's where I am. That's how I came to where I am today. Now let's talk about how to use this upward comparison as a tool and not a crutch, right? Let's make it a tool, not a crutch, because we don't want to be sitting in a place of like negativity, jealousy, envy, because we look up to somebody's life, right? So the mindset, the full mindset shift that I did, the 4 things I did that helped me a lot when it comes to upward comparison is that, if they can do it, I can too. That's what I always lean on. If they can do it, I can do it too. Now, this mindset changed how I see successful people. If I met or saw someone that I really like, I was like, man, this guy is amazing. Like he done something I never done before. And this could be in like performance, like physical performance, like running Ironman or business, finances, investing, whatever it may be. I always like, oh man, if he can do it, I can do it too. And I always repeat that to myself. I'm like, I want to learn from him. And this kind of helped me lead into like, okay, I want to learn from this person. If he can do it, I can do it too. Why not? Right? And it drives me forward. It inspires me. So, and then number 2, I dive deep. I find out who they are, their life story. I always start with, can you tell me a little bit about, your life story? Like, what's the hardest struggle that you went through? I always seek the struggle first. I read their story. If it's like somebody who's like, a multimillionaire like in the 200-300 million, and you get into connection room with them, I will always ask them like, what's their story? Like, what's their, how did they overcome their struggle, right? If they had a story, I would just look it up and I ask them personally. But if it's somebody that I met who have a business here locally and who I find very inspiring, I would ask them like, what are the struggles that they went through? A lot of them will share. People like to share their struggles. Why? Because it's just nice to help other people and connect through sharing stories. I enjoy it. I like sharing my stories, right? So find out their rise and fall, right? Their fall and how they rise. Know their stories, and that's how you connect with them, because now you understand their stories. Now you see like, oh, okay, they had to go through this hardship to get to where they are today. So instead of glancing over someone's life, understand their stories. And that's how you dive deep, and that's how you be inspired by them. And then number 3, I replicate their actions as much as possible. Duplicate their action. Do what they do. If you want to be Warren Buffett, you have to live like him. Go read financial report every single day. If you want to be a good investor, that's what you do. That's all he does. He eats McDonald's in the morning, and then he go read financial statements. If you guys are not willing to do that, you're not going to be Warren Buffett, all right? And he's been doing this for 50 years, and the man's like old. his business partner just passed away recently, and the man was like 90 something. So are you going to do that for the rest of your life? Eat McDonald's in the morning, live in the same house for the last 50 plus years, and, read financial report every day. It doesn't sound very exciting, but that's what he does to get where he is today. Are you willing to do that to succeed? So duplicate their actions, right? If you want their life, just do what they do. Right? So just, to me, I say yes. I would say yes to guys. Just be like, no, I'm not going to do that. I want to be like Warren Buffett too someday. Right? Just making sure. So last thing is, of course, be humble. Have humility. Accept that you're not there yet. Accept that you're still growing and learning. And, and just seek knowledge and wisdom. Just keep learning. Be humble. Like, don't think that you know everything. Honestly, I don't know. I always tell myself, like, I can always know more. I don't know everything, so I can always know more. I can learn from somebody. Now, this is what I do to help me continue to use upward comparison as a tool, right? I look up to people because I have humility, right? Yeah, I always say that this person has something that's better than me. I want to learn from them at a different level. They have things that I don't have. We're all made differently. Remember that, guys. We all have a special gift that's been given to us. So all of us have something different, right? And that's why we need to share this with other people. Like, if people come and ask me to share, I will share with them too. And I will want to learn something from them, because you can learn something, right? A homeless guy on the street, I can learn something from. We do our charity work. We go there, we pass out pizza, and I ask them, like, so what happened, man? What went wrong? What happened? And some guys would tell me, like, this one gentleman, forgot his name. He shared with me that, he lost his mom. And it threw him, like, it just shocked him and threw him all over the place. And he got into drinking a lot and did drugs. And the next thing lost his job. And now he's homeless, right? So I learned, like, okay, I need to prepare myself. What if my mother will pass away? How will I handle it? Am I going to be a person that just stop and then everything will collapse? Or is there a way for me to prepare myself, right? To prepare myself, set up a system in place so that I can have time to, sit in a place of mourning while my business and everything else run, right? I'm preparing myself for that. One, because all of us are going to die anyway. One day, we all going to go to the same place. All right, guys? So prepare yourself for that. Live the best life. Do the things that you really enjoy. Spend time with the right people that you care about. Just remember that, all right? So I do want to talk about a little bit about how to stop negative comparison. We talked about upward comparison as a tool, how to use that as a tool, but I do want to talk about how to stop the negative comparison, for those who are suffering from that, because some of us have some form of comparison that we do. And it can be very painful. And because you're suffering through it in silence, right? Sometimes you don't know that you're doing it because it's become a habit. When you sit on social media, it's not like, you're like, oh, wait, this is a bad habit. I'm going to stop doing it. You're not aware of it. Sometimes you come home from work or something stressful happened. You sit on your phone and next thing you know, you're scrolling through social media and you see something that triggers this, like, oh, why is my life not like this? So let's talk about how do we stop negative comparison. And the truth is, when you're comparing yourself, you're being selfish because it's all about you. When is it going to be my turn? Why is my car not as nice as his or her, right? Why am I not as pretty as those people or her or him, all right? Why is he smarter than me, right? Why is this ad bigger than mine, right? Why does he have ads and I don't? That kind of comparison, right? So why am I not as rich as that person? Like, sometimes those thoughts come because we get triggered by it. So let's focus on how do we stop that negative cycle of comparing ourselves with others, right? So here are 5 things that I do to help me stop negative comparison. Number 1, simple, stop being selfish. Stop making it like, when you make your wants and needs all about you, you're going to start comparing, right? But when you have a greater purpose, right? If you make, I say, for example, for me, my greater purpose is to spread the goodness of God, because I do believe that we all need some faith in God in our life. And it has does amazing things in my life. A lot of like transformation, and for my kids and for my family, made me more like just loving and acceptance, and just gave me a lot of peace. And so for you guys too, maybe make God a greater purpose in your life, right? Because, when you have a greater purpose in yourself, let's say if you have a greater purpose to serve your family, to serve the people around you, to serve your community, to have a bigger why, you don't care about all the little trivial things anymore. You'll care more about what's important, like what you got to do to make it happen, right? When you make your journey about someone else, it will make your comparison about becoming better to achieve a goal versus seeking self-gratification through, simple things like money, cars, clothes, LV bags, right? So stop being selfish. Trade a purpose, all right? Number two, important, create a supportive circle. Create a supportive circle. So find people that you can be real and honest with, especially in this community. Be inspired by them, be pushed by them, challenge each other, right? Find a support circle, a strong support circle of a few people. You don't need a lot. You just need like 2 or 3 people in your life. And they are the people that will speak life into you. They will be the one that you can reach out to through the hard times. And they're the one that you are inspired by, like they do in these things. I have people that I'm very inspired by. I have a few friends, they build their own business too as well. They inspire other men, and I'm inspired by that. I'm like, I want to do that. How can I become that way? I ask them all the time, like, what are you guys doing? Like, what gives you inspiration? What are you guys doing daily, right? Daily cold plunge for me is what I've learned from them too. Like, just jump in and do it because you're challenging your mind, right? Like, it's not fun sitting in the cold every day. I just did this morning. It was cold. It was not fun. I was praying a lot. I was like, God, give me strength to overcome this pain for a good minute. It was cold. It's like 34 degrees in that water, but I do it every day because I'm inspired to do it. Number 3, compete with yourself. To stop the negative comparison, you have to continue to focus on being better than yesterday. Comparing someone else's life with yours doesn't make any sense, because we're different. We are all different in many ways. You are in a different place. You're in a different city. You grew up in a different environment. We all grew up differently, and we live different lives. So it doesn't make sense to compare your life to somebody else. Just focus on being better every day. Compete with yourself, not someone else, right? And when you constantly competing yourself with someone else, there's going to be no peace at all. But when you're competing with yourself, there's going to be peace, because now you can say, I did something better than I did yesterday. And just continue to lean on to focusing on being better. Right? Number 4, definitely a media purge is necessary. I done this all the time. I always go back to my social media. I'm like, okay, who do I need to unfollow? And now I'm down to like 43 people, and I'm going to keep unfollowing. And the only thing that, I'll probably end up keeping is probably like pages that are talking about God, social media account that talks about motivation and inspirational content. Everybody else, I'm just like unfollowing, right? And that's necessary. If you're not doing that on a weekly basis, you will get triggered. You will get into a place where you start comparing. You start getting distracted, right? And this includes this media purge. I suggest this include like YouTube, TikTok, TV, Facebook, right? Cut all those things out. Start unfollowing people. Start blocking people too. You don't need certain friends, man. Block people. All right. Last thing, always remember to spend some moments in gratitude. 5 minutes every day to reflect on the blessing that you have in your life. Give thanks to God or to anyone who helped you along the way. Just feel blessed for the things you have, because for me, so we donate to this World Vision. So we sponsored 2 kids in Africa somewhere. I forgot where, but we sponsored 2 kids through World Vision. And the kids over there, they don't have much, right? sleep on the ground. And when we build houses in Vietnam, uh, people living on the dirt, they're living in shacks. We'll send more videos of that out whenever the houses get done, but we do have images of like the families who's living there. Like when you see perspective, you're reminded like, oh man, it's amazing that I have AC. It's amazing that I have heat in the cold, warm clothes. I have food on the table. You know, being in America is a blessing. Like you could be a homeless guy in America and it's still a blessing. Why? Because you can still get a hot meal. And so be grateful. Spend a moment every day in gratitude moments, because that's definitely changed my life. You know, because I always find peace, find like calmness, found like just you know blessings in my life when I'm sitting in gratitude moments. So that's highly recommended. Do it. I'm telling you guys to do it. Spend time to do it. You don't have time to spend 5 minutes to reflect on the blessing that you have in your life. Your priorities are in the wrong place. But you know, these are the things that help me stop all the negative comparison that I face every day, because it's just going to get worse. Just remember that. So prepare yourself, prepare your mind so that you can be better every single day. Because, the truth is life is not fair. That is true. Life isn't very fair because some people are born in a different advantage than us. But you know what? It's okay. It's what we do with it. It's what we do with our life that's been given.